deeply unequal. If we get our water resources right and managing them right, I think we can make progress on all of those fronts. So what I want to put on the table is we need to have a bigger, broader imagination. You bring in more people, you bring in more disciplines, and there is a way to do this differently. Rina, I just want to pick up on something that you said, because the per capita water availability is like this big scare figure, and I think it's totally misguided and wrong. Every one of you has a smartphone, look it up, look at per capita water availability country after country after country, okay? Our Prime Minister, our new Prime Minister, he was just in Singapore, for instance. Look at Singapore's per capita water availability. It's like hovering in like the 600s, okay? It is not Oman. I mean, think about it. Like, these are rich places, okay? Qatar, Doha, etc. It's not about how much water you have per person, because to live, to eat food, you in fact need very little water. Our problem is that we have too much water, I will say this, doing very little food production inefficiently, out of which we are giving massive subsidies for food procurement, which farmers can't even get. So what we need to do is having an integrated conversation about poverty, inequality, development, food production, bring everyone at the table, and then let's talk about how do we move forward. Why is our imagination so small? And what are these fights? And there's ways to solve it. Lastly, I happen to be a lawyer by training, and I also just want to sort of put this. The law is a way, and here we really have like expertise, okay? The law is a way to manage change in society. It's a mechanism. So we need to let the legal system act. We need to let laws develop. We have something called the Canal and Drainage Act, okay? I mean, really, it's 140 plus years old right now. This is the base of our legal system managing this water resource. We want to do 21st century agriculture. How do you do it on this legal base? So lawmakers have to step up. People have to step up and say, look, we need serious legal change in this country. This is not fit for purpose, okay? And whatever the British did, and they developed this massive canal irrigation system, we can get into some of that history. It's outdated, and it's not serving Pakistan's real needs of lifting up our people. And it's unfair. So when I talk about this, when I get into this, I'm very dissatisfied with how myopic. Like, why is our conversation like this little thing, let's build this? I mean, really, we need to get our water to work for us. Have imagination, do it seriously. Bring in more disciplines, and really, I know we're at LLF, but I really think we need to get the youth involved. Every legal, law college in this country needs to be offering courses, for instance, in water law. Why don't we have these people? Why don't we have this development? What are our universities really doing? So I have a lot of gripes about a lot of things that we do really badly, but I think we can all put our heads together, build up our disciplines, and work on this in a way that will serve some of these goals.
Of the Supreme Court of Pakistan, which was a very unusual thing for a Supreme Court to hold a conference about the water issue which was being faced by Pakistan. Before that, so she knows everything. She's been part of us. Whatever she has stated is absolutely correct. I have no reason to disagree with her or even to give any further suggestion there. But one thing I would like people of Pakistan to know much more about that, about the awareness. In our judgment, which is about the water, and that is dated 4th of July 2018. It's a comprehensive judgment authored by myself. If you look at that judgment, we have given the causes, we have given the solutions. That is a comprehensive, detailed judgment, though not in the sense that it provides each and every nitty-gritty thereof, but the basic points about the causes. Now we are not left with the causes. It's a question about the implementation. In the water conference, what we had last year, you must be aware of it. Everything, every bit of the issues which were being faced by Pakistan or likely to be faced by Pakistan, those have been answered in clear terms. What I feel in our country, unfortunately, it is always the solutions which we do answer, the implementation is the most difficult. Implementation has to be done, and if unfortunately we fail in implementing it in our very near future, we will do both in terms of conservation of the water and also in terms of the use, in terms of the management of the water, in terms of the crops to which she has indicated. So this is undoubtedly a very apt answer given by that we need to do and take certain steps in that.
And it's up to agree with
Yes, I have a slightly different point of view on this. I think as far as the legislation is concerned, pretty good legislation is already available, but we should look to the technology to help us in certain areas. To give you an example, there was a lot of wastage of water in rice fields, rice cultivation, the process of paddy transportation and puddling. We have to pond the field in the water. Recently, there is a quite innovative approach, and the paddy is being cultivated just like wheat, that is dry cultivation. The field is made absolutely level like this, and you only water just like water wheat. So the people, once they get to know, they are doing it. In my own village, I'm a farmer also by background. Out of 2,000 acres of paddy cultivation, in the very first year there were 300, next year there were 1,200 acres cultivated by this method, and the farmers claim that they have saved a lot of money in the tuber bill, which means the water has also been saved. This is number one. Similarly, the wheat is also in certain cases water is being ponded and sprinklers are being added. So, as the Mr. Saqib Nisar has Chief Justice has informed, implementation is an issue, will continue to be an issue in Pakistan. Law is there that nobody should cross the red light. How many people look at the mark and see how many people cross the red light? We do it. And you do a legislation as it is proposed. Let's say put the legislation to punish the people who overpump the groundwater. It will never work. On the other hand, there will be an army of people who will be recruited, magistrates and people who will try 1 million tubers. How are we going to regulate it? How are we going to control them? Impossible. So let the people understand, let them have technology, let them have incentive. They're quite wise farmers, they will save water and help us in overall food security.
Thank you. Going back to you, I think again you've written that groundwater is actually responsible for 1/3 of the irrigation requirements in Pakistan. And of course we just heard that there are over 1 million tube wells across the country. And yet there is no regulation of groundwater. It's like the elephant in the room and not many people discuss it. So what should be done about it? It's a very alarming problem of groundwater depletion.
So on that, so this is such a great question. If I could connect it to something that Saqib Nisar just said, right? So Equator, for instance, it's a different problem. You basically need groundwater for drinking purposes, right? So you're not trying to grow food. So one of the things to recognize is that, look, when we say groundwater, what people are doing with it in different parts of the country changing, right? So it's not just like, oh, there's this thing called groundwater, but it's like a mini basin by mini basin. So in Punjab, the story is very, very different. When you go to Sindh, Punjab, everyone will tell you don't line the canals, because if you line the canals, the seepage won't happen. That's what giving farmers groundwater. In Sindh, if you go, there are parts that says please line the canals because the groundwater is too salty for us to pump up in any case and to apply to our crops. So it has to be very tailored to the condition of the resource in that specific place. That's the first thing to think about, right? That there's not this one thing, we can't make one law. So for drinking water. So essentially in places like Quetta, right? So Quetta city, 8 million people, huge population, right? Water is very, very heavy to pump out.
And when groundwater tables are falling, there's not enough rainfall to recharge it, right? And that's the other thing, right? What's your recharge rate? It's a very difficult resource to manage, but so it's also a national security problem, and I just want to put that on the table. Can we think of like 8 million people somehow not being able anymore to live in Quetta City? Then what do? Do they have to go live in other parts of the country, right? These are very serious problems. I mean, internal migration, displacement are huge. I mean, you get into all kinds of ethnic problems. Who is going to receive them? So I think we have to take it seriously, given the scale of the problem and what the many problems are. The other, so you'll have to get people on the table and try and get this, get this conversation going. On groundwater, the estimate for tube wells is fascinating because, as you rightly said, there is no regulation. There's no authority at a provincial level, at a federal level that gives you a license, okay, to sink. Now, essentially, people have evolved very sophisticated ways of managing groundwater, okay, around the world. It's possible. It's like thought of as a free resource. It's not. So there's a way that you can get a license and if you can get a pumping unit. Now, how much you can enforce and how good your regulation is. Enforcement has to be, those are the ways to do. But there's certainly things that we can look at around the world where people have figured out what is the groundwater resource doing here, what is it doing there, and tailor the response. So there's no one thing that's going to work across Pakistan. That's not going to be it. So you need a sophisticated set of groundwater laws, right, to manage. The other thing is irrigation essentially is under the federal constitution, right? We're a federal country, there's devolution, it's a provincial subject. So the provinces will really have to step up. So anyone who says, I can sit and make something in Islamabad and get everyone to work on this and do this, it's not going to be true. We need capacity to be developed within the provinces so that they can tailor their resource management.
Saqib Nisar, this is my 7 billion in the dam fund. That's less than 1% of the project cost. So the amount is too large to really leave it lying around, and yet it is not really close to even help the project get started. So what do you propose we do?
When we were contemplating about whether this fund should be created or not, and I believe Lisa was also there that moment, and we never wanted this, we never thought this would be, in a way, a money which would be able to complete the project or sufficient for that purpose. Our object was to create a campaign, awareness, make people sensitive about what this issue is and how important and how expedient and how mandatory this is for the people of Pakistan. That is the reason why. I remember why I made the mention to him, 8,000 rupees a pension for both the brothers, and we have saved this 100,000 for Maranjuri, what they call for Zindagi Barki Kamai. So we come here to donate this 100,000. I said, no, keep 50,000 with you and rest me. I matched what the Supreme Court matched. So the small children came to school boys, girls, colleges. I don't remember any section of the society that did not touch with the Supreme Court for contributing. There was a jazba behind it. And I'm sure this is going to continue. And we have suggested in our judgment, which I referred to you just now, 4th of July, we have suggested as to how this dam can be raised with the public investments, the treasury bills, with the other bonds issued. And you must be remembering in Ethiopia, the dam which is called Jerd, perhaps, that has been created and established with the issuance of the bonds and the treasury bills and even by creation of a special vehicle companies. So we can do this all. This contribution is a humble contribution to the people or to the nation by the people who have loved for this country. That's all what I thought to
say that although they recognize that this whole region has a total of 500 gigawatts of hydropower potential, of which only a small fraction is actually developed, but then they say that this area faces major challenges due to glacial melt induced by climate change, and the risk of glacial lake outburst floods, which are happening quite frequently, and landslides are increasing. And so it's going to be putting both existing and planned hydropower plants at risk. So how dangerous will this dam be?
Look at this, definitely these few issues are there, which have been well documented and considered. One is the issue of these glacial lakes, dam bursts that happen. Then in the lake periphery, these are moraines, which are sometimes unstable, and they could, while the dam is full, and the whole mountain can come and cause a huge surge of water that can overturn the dam. Now, the first feasibility study that was done by Monelco in 1884, they proposed an earth-filled dam, which was the large, like Mangla and Zavela. But that was discarded primarily for this reason, that it could be overtoppled because of this situation, and an earth-filled dam is very unsafe against overtoppling. So naturally an alternative was considered, which could have been a concrete-faced earth-filled dam or a roller compacted earth-filled dam. So second feasibility study was done by NASPAC, ACE and foreign experts, and they looked into these issues, and the panel of experts who also looked at that, and they considered various alternatives and ultimately came to the conclusion that a roller compacted concrete dam is the best option. Again, the panel of experts, they look into that. By the way, the original panel of in 1884 had also highlighted these issues, that an earth-filled dam can be overtoppled and is very dangerous. Now, in certain sections of print media, certain concerns have been raised as to that it's a rigid structure and it's a seismic area, and a rigid structure is not safe against earthquake. Any structure can be designed to withstand any earthquake depending upon how to design it. For instance, the 2005 earthquake, the buildings which were not properly built in Islamabad, and those buildings which were properly built, including your nuclear power plant, absolutely nothing happened, because they took into the consideration how to design it. So we have, in the latest design review and by a panel of design, this taking into consideration that the RCC dam will be safe against earthquake, it will be safe against overtopping, and it will be cost effective, it will be constructed within a short period of time, and that is the best option which is not being considered.
Okay, thank you. I think we have about 10-15 minutes left, so let's open it to the audience, and please restrict your questions to water and dams only, no political questions to be asked. Mike.
Your question has been completely answered in my judgment of 4th of July 2018. And in one sentence, I would like to reiterate myself that for me, the unity of the country was more important than the construction of one dam. And I believe that Diyamir and Bhasha, the Mohammed dam, was the best option available to us at this point of time. And in the judgment, you will find that we have not given up on Kalabagh dam. The day this consensus of all the 4 brothers is there, we will inshallah make Kalabagh dam.
Would you like to say something as an
Thank
alternative?
Thank you. I just want to put one very quick thing on the table here, and so this is just a little lesson in language and etymology. The English word rival comes from this Latin word rivalis. And who was your rival? What is a rivalis? It is the person you share a water stream with. The very idea of a rival comes from sharing a shared water source. And think about that, that's built into the structure of the language, okay? So, the thing to realize is that there is a real water rivalry in this country. This is a real problem and we're not going to get over it by sort of fudging it and saying, you know, let's get along. It's a real rivalry because it has real economic and social implications. So until and unless you figure out how to have a win-win, the rivalry will persist, the mistrust and the interprovincial mistrust will persist. I think we just have a very sort of, it's like a degenerating cycle of mistrust in this country around shared water resources. So what we really need to do, instead of trying to hammer home a solution, what we need to do is figure out how do we build the trust up of the federating units, and then we can move forward with different projects, etc. But really, it's an actual rivalry, and there's actual provincial mistrust, and we're not going to get around it by saying, let's go along. It's not like some kumbaya, hold hands, and let's sing and we'll be okay. This is a real rivalry, and so we need to tackle it with great intelligence and skill. And by the way, we're not the only country in the world that has ever had a water rivalry. Okay, I've just done an article comparing the Indus and the Colorado River systems. 7 states in the US, the western US, very, very dry, and transboundary going to Mexico. So here we have transboundary on the east with India, and we have transboundary on the west with Afghanistan. Why we forget what's happening on the Kabul River and what American plans are for the Kabul River is not, there's a complex problem. So the rivalry is real, competing interests are real, but other places have solved it. And if I just can put one thing, the Colorado River system has 10 million acre-feet of water. It is roughly, think of it as 1/10 what we have in the Indus River system, okay, annually. And they have a $4 trillion economy based on that water resource. We need to figure out a different economic model to take care of, in fact, a lot of water that we have. Thank you. Next question.
जितना भी अगर हम आज भी स्टार्ट करेंगे तो 15 साल का टाइम तो रहेगा, एंड मोर 15 years का टाइम होगा, लेकिन 15 साल तक जो हम पानी का लॉस करेंगे उसको कौन कर सकता है? हमारा डेली का जो लॉस है हमारा एनुअल 153 हमारा लेवल का है, जिसमें से जो रेन वाटर है वो 45 मिलियन एक्रे फीट, सॉरी ग्राउंड वाटर रेन का 13 से 15 मिलियन एक्रे फीट है। हम 100 वाटर लॉस कर रहे हैं। मैं गो पानी की बात नहीं करता, वो कहा जाता है कि सिंध बहा देता है, सिंध को दिया जाता है, ये गो वाटर है जो 100 जो है वो हमारे खालों में, दरियाओं में, ये नहरों में यहाँ पर लॉस होता है। तो इस लॉस का कौन जिम्मेदार होगा और इसको रोकने के लिए हमने क्या किया? हमारे 2 डिपार्टमेंट है, एग्रीकल्चर डिपार्टमेंट और इरिगेशन डिपार्टमेंट। इन 2 डिपार्टमेंट की क्या वर्क पे किसी ने कोई सवाल उठाया या इनको कहा आपने कुछ किया? इरिगेशन डिपार्टमेंट सिवाय सड़कों के ऊपर चूने के साथ दिखने पे जिम्मेदार काश्तकार मुतवज्जा हूं, उसके अलावा क्या काम किया? यहाँ पे डेजर्ट के अंदर गन्ने उगाए जा रहे हैं, चावल उगाए जा रहे हैं, जहाँ पे चने उगने चाहिए। क्यों पानी का आपने लॉस के लिए यहाँ पे कुछ नहीं, कोई काम नहीं करा। यहाँ पे पॉलिटिशियन से बात करें, पॉलिटिशियन कहेगा कि इंडिया ने आपका पानी रोक दिया। यार अल्लाह के बंदे, हमारी डिमांड जो पानी की है वो जस्ट 53-56 अराउंड, जस्ट इरिगेशन एग्रीकल्चर के पानी। मैं पंजाबी हूँ, माई कल्चर इज एन एग्रीकल्चर मेरी बैकबोन है, एग्रीकल्चर के बिना कुछ भी नहीं। तो खुदारा उस पानी को बचाइए जो कि कुछ भी नहीं है हमारा, 56 का जस्ट है। तो काइंडली फार्मर्स के साथ आके बात कीजिए।
थैंक यू। अहमद साहब, आप रिस्पॉन्ड करें।
The question is of course relating to saving water. I do agree we need to save water. But we must realize that we are an arid country and we have a salinity problem also. A very efficient irrigation is not tenable in such condition. You got to let about 20% water leach down the root zone in order to keep its hot balance. The salt filter in Pakistani lands is like a time bomb. we are adding 1 ton of salt per hectare, and that is keep on being added. So already, I don't think the people, particularly when they're using groundwater because of the excessive rates of electricity, anybody is wasting water. Water is being saved. But what you need to do is that, wherever there is excessive pumping of groundwater, what's the reason for that? We need to have an equitable distribution of water so that there is no shortage of water in the tail. And secondly, we need to recharge the groundwater. As you rightly pointed out, we have lots of rain, lot of water goes without charging the groundwater. Very cost effectively, that water can be used to recharge the groundwater. So we have made lots of suggestions and manifold that there should be effort, but unfortunately so far no major effort has been done in order to recharge the groundwater. So that's an effort that we should do.
Demand management, and there are a lot of problems with dams, environmental, for instance. A lot of countries are moving away from them. So they're moving towards flowing rivers.
Could you answer that?
I'd be very happy to. So yes, you're absolutely right. So there's always a trend, right? So meanwhile, while dams are getting made in developing countries, for instance, right? So Ethiopia, etc. There's a major challenge, with what Egypt wants, etc. There's also a huge move to try and get away from dams and try and sort of not build them anymore because they have massive ecosystem challenges that you're saying. So if you go to Kotri Barrage, for instance, which is the last control structure on the Indus, essentially even in August there is pretty much no water going down there, right? So there's about 1 million people who live in that delta. So even if you care about poverty and underdevelopment, that is human beings we seem to not really care that much about. I mean, that's the way that we're managing our water. But at other levels, obviously there's ecosystems, there's species, the mangroves are getting depleted. They're the first line of defense against supposing there's another Asian tsunami, right? Whether mangroves are healthy, I mean, that could really be a buffer zone to when the waves hit, etc. So we really have to, thanks very much for putting that on the table, we have to think in a way which is beyond, it's sort of like if you have a hammer, if you only have a hammer, then all you can think of is like hitting in a nail kind of thing, right? So we have to move beyond one solution to every problem. That's not going to solve our problem. I just also want to pick up on something Bhatti Saab said. Essentially, about 55% of the watershed of all of Pakistan's rivers is outside of the territorial control of this country. That's incredible. Think about this. Basically, we have this huge reliance, population, built up civilization. That watershed is not in our control, right? If there's a lot of deforestation, there's no river flowing. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, think about that. So we need to figure out how to have a way to evolve solutions, to really even be able to talk to our neighbors, where it is in their interest to protect those ecosystems that really we rely on. So we need to have many conversations at many levels. And again, we need to care about species, but really watersheds are important.
Thank you. Next, please. Lady in the shawl. Sorry, we have to keep it gender.
My question is, thank you very much for putting that on the table. That's one of the reasons why we in fact need to move away from small farming. You're absolutely right. The British, essentially, the plot size that they gave was about 12.5 acres, right? 12.5 acres was basically subsistence level farming. So you could produce a little bit and your family wouldn't starve. I mean, that's the idea. That's basically the bulk of the plot sizes. You're absolutely right. There is no ability of that small farmer to do capital investments to be able to move to a different kind of farming. The other thing, this is something Bhatti Saab said, the idea is that you need a lot of electricity, which we don't have, to do efficient farming. There's no ability, right? So we don't have capital, we don't have money, and we certainly don't have electricity. So that kind of farming model on that small farm level is not going to work, basically. You're absolutely right. So as a country, we have to set a direction. Most people should not be in small farming. It's radical, but that's the direction that the country will have to move in. And we certainly need to produce food, we need to be food secure, but the bulk of our people, about say 65 to 70% of human beings in this basin are reliant on some